Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name over here is Daryl Grove, and over there there's a man who's not a fan of pushing and shoving. His name is Taylor Rockwell.
Hello. No, I'm not. Let's just all hug. That's what I go for in the moments of violence.
Josie also hugged Tyler Adams.
Friendly hugging.
Yeah. So
not bear hugging that seems to be intended to draw a foul.
So we'll get to the Josie Altidore, Sasha Kleshton, Tyler Adams, Giovinco, many people involved. Controversy? I'm going to call it a controversy. Mm-hmm. We'll get to that later on. We're going to start our thumbs up, thumbs down review of the weekend action in the Premier League.
Yes.
I think we should start with the early-ish morning game. It was Man City hosting Arsenal. You got any thumbs in either direction for this?
I do. Should we say what the score was first?
Yeah. I was hoping it would just come out organically, but if you want to do it that way.
We always go goals first, I believe. Man City 3, Arsenal 1. I'm going to say thumbs down for hands in the air. Because for that third Man City goal, Arsenal... Still in it at this point, 2-1. David Silva played in. He is offside.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, not by a great deal, but he's definitely leaning forward, and there's a part that can play the body. A body part that can play the ball is definitely offside. So if you're just if it's like a binary thing, yes, he's offside.
Well, I think it's just sort of in the wake of this game, it's been a lot of so clearly offside. It's I mean, he's like a foot offside. I wouldn't say it was that obvious.
For the record, I've got thumbs down to Arsene Wenger for complaining after the game.
We'll get to there in a second. But first I want to say, so then David Silva is played in. He is offside, but Laurent Koscielny and Granit Xhaka both stop and put their arms in the air and expect that will be enough.
Yep.
Koscielny then, I think, reacts a little bit faster, but Xhaka keeps his hand in the air and does not move for a good couple seconds.
I think it's Nacho Monreal who eventually tries to get across to Silva. On his way, he twice stops, raises his arm, looks at the assistant referee, to the point where if he hadn't done that, if he just literally, what you teach kids, play to the whistle, he might have got to Silva quicker and closed him down.
Yeah, but I mean, all three of them, and I think Xhaka will be the one who ends up getting the most blame for it because his was just so obvious. Right? Yeah, and really doesn't move and probably should have been covering that near post ball.
He looked like he was playing that game where it's everyone freeze.
Yeah, that was bad, and it speaks to some of the problems that Arsenal had. And I want to say thumbs down in that regard to excuses, because Arsene Wenger after the game said, that it was clearly offside and that Raheem Sterling is a diver, that he has the reputation and he's very good at diving.
All right, so let me wrap one thing up.
Yeah.
It was Silva squares it to Jesus, right?
Yes.
It's the Jesus goal that we're talking about where there were way too many Arsenal players with their arms in the air instead of playing soccer. Then the other thing Wenger was complaining about, the reason he gets thumbs down from me, is he basically called Raheem Sterling a diver for winning that penalty that Sergio Aguero scored. So this was the second goal, correct?
No penalty at all. I mean, no diving at all. It's absolutely a penalty.
I think he definitely sold it. As in, he gave it a little extra to sell it. But there was definitely a foul from Nacho Monreal because he came in. I watched this several times to make sure. Monreal comes in from the side, doesn't make any contact with the ball. And it's kind of pretty hard hip-to-hip contact that knocks Raheem Sterling flying. And maybe Sterling, if he'd wanted to, could have stayed on his feet. But he's sort of not obligated to if Monreal's going to do that.
But I think it's frustrating. And maybe this is where, if it were, say, Jose Mourinho saying this, we would, maybe I or the media would say, it's just Jose, being the games where he says the inflammatory things so that people focus on that. But I do think Match of the Day did a really good analysis of basically Arsenal's, for lack of a better term, half-assed approach to pressing, where they kept having, one and two players. It was clearly their game plan to try to put City under pressure and see if the high press could force some turnovers. I think basically they know City want to build out of the back, so they're going to try to put them under pressure. But routinely it was the front three would go and no one else would follow. Yep. So they were just easily bypassed routinely.
So I've got thumbs up to Alexis Sanchez for attempting to press Man City using only his fingers. Because he would go and lead the press when Man City had the ball at the back if it was Stones or someone with the ball. And then he'd be pointing at all the other players he wanted closed down. Almost like a gunslinger, pew, 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 pew.
Yeah, but
but it wasn't quite happening, right? And then as soon as Man City got over the halfway line, all of a sudden the rest of Arsenal got a lot more timid. And I'm going to point the finger again at Xhaka for that Raheem Sterling winning the penalty kick. Fernandinho has ages and ages and ages to play that big diagonal for Sterling to run onto because Xhaka just stands off and is too scared to go and put any pressure on him.
First of all, I love that you think gunfighters fight with their fingers. That's great. Second of all, but I think the reason why I bring this back to Wenger is because I feel like he was kind of like going after these specific incidents and not the fact that it seemed like they had not really figured out how to press. And he was like, just go out there and do it. And it's way harder. It requires everybody working together. It requires everyone knowing their responsibilities. When they don't, you're easily bypassed and the other team gets chances.
And from what I saw, the plan was we press when Man City have the ball in defence. When they cross the halfway line, then we really fall back into like a back five and then a four in front and try and contain them. And I just saw Man City able to, once they got over the halfway line, it was way too easy for them.
Yeah. I mean, and that's how you get a 3-1 result. And I think, Arsene Wenger says they were in it and they had good chances, and yes, they scored the goal. I think some people will be wondering why Lacazette doesn't start for Arsenal more regularly.
I always do.
And I think that there's lots of question marks there, but I think in the end, the story of the game has to be probably Man City continuing to raise the question of, is anyone going to stop this team?
I mean, I've got one final thumbs up, which suggests no, and it's the first goal. Thumbs up to Kevin De Bruyne for never giving up. And if you can picture this goal, but he gets, I think it's Silva.
Oh, yeah.
Silva, I think, chips the ball into him, and he has a really nice volley, right? I'd be proud of that volley if I hit it. It's saved, but De Bruyne doesn't just stand there and be like, oh, that's a shame, that would have been nice. I would have liked to have seen that in the highlight reel. Instead, he immediately, I can't remember, is it Sané maybe picks the ball up at left?
I think so, yeah.
But De Bruyne immediately recycles himself out of the box and back into a position where he can receive the ball and then play that quick 1-2 with Fernandinho, and then he's got another chance at goal. And it really it really illustrated how Man City players are constantly thinking about, okay, that's over. Now, where's the spot I need to be in to get this move going again? And for that reason, Arsenal could never, ever get their way out when a Man City attack broke down. It was just time for the next Man City attack. It was endless. It was relentless. It was Kevin De Bruyne.
Yep. I mean, and so 3-1 result for City leaves them
8 points.
8 points ahead. I think, and probably 9 points because goal difference is kind of ridiculous at this point.
Their goal difference must be off the charts. Right? And I think I might be right in saying that Man United and Spurs are now level on points in second. I want to say it's 23 points to those two.
It is.
And Man City on 31. I'm genuinely doing this without looking at a screen.
Man United ahead on goal difference.
All right.
You are correct.
Do you want to talk Man City ahead on goal difference? Oh, Man United ahead of Tottenham. All right. Well, they got one negative goal difference this weekend.
They sure did.
Because Man United went to Stamford Bridge, lost 1-0 to Chelsea. You got any thumbs for this?
I'm going to say thumbs up. I'm going to give it to Andreas Christensen, even though the entire Chelsea backline deserves it, for somehow managing to put Romelu Lukaku into his pocket. And that's
got very big pockets.
That was kind of my takeaway from it. I've read a lot about how Lukaku was actually the one who was trying to drop in and help United kickstart their attack, but as a result, 0 touches in the box in this game, which is never a thing you want from your number 9.
He did have that shot from just outside the box, which I think sort of makes it sound like he had no attacking threat, but he had one really good effort.
Well, but that's my point, is that's still him having to go and get the ball turned and then go back and try to get a shot off. That's true. It's not sort of them playing through him. And there was lots of problems with the link-up play. But I think overall, you've got to point to Chelsea doing a good job of eliminating that threat completely.
And wasn't the big story that Christensen, this was kind of his first big moment where you point at him and say, he played and he was excellent and we don't even need David Luiz? Because that's kind of what Conte did, right? He basically said Luiz is out of form. I'm going to drop him. I'm going to start Christensen. Luiz wasn't even on the bench. There was a young guy, I want to say his name is Ampadu, like a 17-year-old Chelsea defender who was on the bench ahead of David Luiz. Something is happening there. Right?
Yeah,
I'm not saying I know what it is, but it can't just be that he's out of form, right? Because then you just go to the bench.
It's after, he showed up in street clothes. So that was the rampant speculation of David Luiz won't play. This is good if you're a United fan. Was the general takeaway. Wrong is what it ended up being. But I think a lot of it comes about from the Roma loss, the 3-0 loss in Rome in the Champions League. I think Antonio Conte very upset about that game. So I think you saw the ramifications here. That said, for the reports of the demise of Antonio Conte and he's going to be out of Chelsea, maybe a little bit exaggerated there because he seems
in a Mark Twain style.
Yeah, it seems like he has still very much got the Chelsea players believing in him, believing in his approach, or at least being afraid of him to do what he says.
Maybe the ones that aren't enough afraid, they get sent to watch from the stands.
Yeah, there you go. And I do think that the story of this game is gonna it's gonna be Chelsea get it done. And Mourinho's terrible. That seems to be a lot of the coverage, and I think there are reasons for that. United have 5 shots on target in 3 games. Not great. Right. It's been a lot of that sort of there's the fouling, there's the kicking, let's make sure we knock Hazard around. I think people are a lot turned off by that. And the obvious one is the amount of money spent for the results we're seeing on the pitch. I think people are enjoying the criticism of Mourinho.
So there's the narrative that United were kind of on a roll until they went to Anfield and Mourinho kind of went super defensive and shut it down, got himself a 0-0 draw. But then results haven't been as good ever since. It's almost like the momentum stopped stopped there. But this game...
Some would argue that when you start to play tougher opposition,
right,
is where the momentum stopped.
But this game, it's not as if United went out super defensive, as I understand it. The only negative thing I can think of is how sort of, what the word is, violent they were.
Yeah.
Just a lot of fouls.
Well, I think they went out with this 3-5-2, I think with an idea that we'll put the two up top, Rashford and Lukaku. Mm-hmm. That will help us get some sort of attacking traction. Instead, I think they had 2 shots on frame. Might be wrong. But it seems like the two of them didn't quite know their roles or how to function as a partnership.
Is this a thing Mourinho's working on, maybe?
I don't know. I guess we'll see. But it did, when I saw it, I was like, okay, back 3, which is really probably going to be a back 5 a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. It did make me wonder how attacking United were going to be, and I think it was a little bit more than we've seen in games past, but it was still a lot of the same old stuff, and it was still put on Fellaini and try to make something happen, let the big guy do big guy things, and when it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
So you think at the end Mourinho was like, let's try the David Moyes thing?
Yeah, basically. I mean, that's what he's been doing. So it is, I do, from a fan perspective.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, so full disclosure, if this is the first time you've heard the show, Taylor's a Man United fan.
I'm sure many people don't know that.
But I genuinely think very good at being neutral when we do these reviews.
I try.
Yeah.
But I do think that this is, for me, this is why I say, speaking as a fan, I am sort of starting to understand why Mourinho doesn't last long at clubs. Because, it starts off with, look, we go defensive, it's boring, but we get the win or we get the draw, and you get the points you need to get the results you need.
And we'll put Pepe in midfield when we play Barcelona, which is a thing he did at Real Madrid, right? Yeah.
But then slowly it becomes oh man, that was not fun. And then you look across the town to Man City destroying people and having 800 passes and already scoring 50 goals this season. That's decently impressive. Mm-hmm. And it's not a good idea to compare yourself to that because that's not what United are going to be. But you then look and you think it's a lot of kicking, it's a lot of fouling. More often than not, people are like, oh, boring Mourinho, same old thing. He gets a little frustrated with the media, which he definitely is because a lot of his responses were very spiky, I'm going to say, thorny. And it does make me wonder if we've reached that point in the Mourinho employment where he starts to get really annoyed, starts to blame the players and say he needs more investment, and then things start to get a little bit fragile.
We'll see in January.
Yep.
But I also want to talk about the team that won this game.
Let's do it.
And I'm going to give thumbs up to Morata and to Bakayoko.
Yep.
Thumbs up first to Alvaro Morata for winning the battle against United's back 3.
Yeah.
So I think in the first couple minutes, he gets absolutely cleared out. But I can't remember if it's Smalling or Jones. But someone is that thing of sort of first tackle, let them know they're in a game. Mm-hmm. Someone absolutely goes through him. Chelsea get a free kick. And I think they rip his jersey as well. There's part of his shirt sleeve is torn off. So it's more like, hey, welcome to the game of Morata. But he kept going back for more. He kept going Hazard was floating around everywhere, right?
Yep.
So it really was, in many ways, Morata against United's back 3. And he was up to the challenge. He did a lot of nice hold-up play and flick-ons, and even that scorpion flick-on that he did. A lot of layoffs and had a few chances of goal. And then he ends up scoring the winner, 55th minute, when he sort of charges into the box, gets his head on that. Really good header from, I would say for a header, it was from distance.
I mean, it's from the penalty spot, and it's that sort of rises well to meet it and then directs it. It's not just a powerful bullet. It's not sort of he's 6 yards out and he heads it in. It is definitely a placed header that's always going to cause problems.
And the look on David De Gea's face was oh yeah, that was a good header. I wasn't ready for that.
Do you want to talk more about this, or do you want to get to Bakayoko? Because I have a thing to say about Morata in this game.
They are both. They're involved.
Okay.
So yeah, let me know what you want to know.
It's basically just that he absolutely deserves the praise, both for his continued efforts throughout the game and also for that goal. But it is one of those things where if you look at the way that goal comes about, I think a big part of it is just what the whole Chelsea team did.
Yes.
That you end up slowly. Yes, it's him against that back 3, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But because you have this attacker here and that attacker there, and this guy moves there, you start to get that United defense a little bit spread out. They're not quite as organized, and as a result, I think he is literally unchallenged for this header. Bailly is near him, but sort of not even close enough to try to jump and put him off.
So Bailly is on the right centre back, and then it's I think Jones and Smalling, or Smalling and Jones. He is between Jones and Smalling on one side, and he is through the middle on his own, completely unchallenged. And the reasons for this are, one, Eden Hazard, who I think was frustrated by the it wasn't that Ander Herrera stick to him like glue man marking. It was the pass him around man marking, right? So Bailly would stay with him and follow him out, but when he went to midfield, he'd be like, hey, Matic, you take him now. Yep. They would just keep passing him off, but there was always a spare centre back that would go with him most of the time. So that they were pulled out of for the goal. They were pulled out of position slightly. I think Bailly was pulled out that side. Bakayoko on the other side is what pulls everything else out. So I'm giving a thumbs up to Tomu Bakayoko for proving that blue hairs can be lively.
So you're giving him 2 thumbs up.
Well, this is the same thumbs up. It's the same thumbs up. Timu Bakayoko for proving that blue hairs can be lively because he had his hair dyed blue.
I get it.
Okay, belabouring the joke, right? If you watch this goal, it's his kind of late-ish run that one pulls Smalling wider because Smalling ends up having to go with him, and also freezes Phil Jones because Phil Jones for a second doesn't know that Smalling's going to pick him up, so he's like, "Oh, do I need to go with him?" And then because he freezes, he doesn't step to Azpilicueta, so Azpilicueta has nice time and space to cross the ball to Alvaro Morata, who is free because Jones and Smalling have been pulled out to this one side. So as well as Hazard, Bakayoko sort of pulled United's back three apart.
Yeah, and I think that those two are obviously fundamental. That like attacking three was definitely deadly. I'd say the other key component for Chelsea in this game, I'm going to say thumbs up if you're a Chelsea fan. If you're a United fan, thumbs down to the return of N'Golo Kante.
Yes,
you put Kante and Bakayoko in there. That is difficult to get through.
It frees up Bakayoko to get forward because he knows that we've got N'Golo Kante will just like swallow anything that goes back the other way.
Yep, and then
there was some good Kante attacking play as well. He would sort of dance away from people in a way that I think I always forget that he's capable of. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot he's actually good with the ball as well.
Yeah, but he also, the other thing that he does is free up Cesc Fabregas, who then doesn't have to do the defensive job that I think he doesn't necessarily love doing and maybe doesn't shine at doing. Yeah, and so you free him up.
It's not Cesky work.
Well done. That was pretty good. But it frees him up, and then it also solidifies your defense and obviously limits attacking chances for the opponent. In this case, United, I think, found that to be definitely true.
Is that David Luiz's argument? Maybe like, hey, this is not fair. You're judging me on a game where we didn't have Kante.
Yeah, probably.
All right, so well done to Chelsea. I think that's a really good win. They're creeping up the table now.
They are indeed.
Right?
I think they're in fourth.
Okay,
on 22 points. I think Liverpool fifth on 19.
It's all beginning to take shape.
I'm saying that without the table in front of me.
Okay,
I'm going to move us away from that one though.
Yeah,
that works for you. I'm going to say thumbs up to David Unsworth. 3-2 victory over Watford for Everton.
And from 2-0 down, right? I believe they were 2-0 down,
and already had people leaving. Like when they were 2-0 down, which is kind of amazing.
Goodness and faithful.
Commentators made that one. And I want to say, but thumbs up to him for, yes, they go 2-0 down, but I think he makes some gutsy decisions.
So I've got to say full disclosure, I haven't seen this game. I think I've seen the Everton goals in like a combined GIF, but I don't know what Unsworth did to change things up.
Subs off Wayne Rooney, brings on Calvert-Lewin.
Yay!
That's a goal. Subs off Gylfi Sigurdsson.
U20 World Cup winner.
Subs off Gylfi Sigurdsson, brings on Aaron Lennon. Aaron Lennon is the one that earns the penalty that leads to the final third goal. They do concede a penalty themselves at the very end, which Tom Cleverley missed, which was his chance for revenge after being sold. But it's still a result. The other thing that's come out since then, he sent home Morgan Schneiderlin and Kevin Morales for a lack of effort in training.
Oh wow!
So basically, they weren't even benched; they were just not included. So I think he's trying to stamp his authority on this team as much as he can and show maybe why he should be more than just a caretaker.
So he tried it early on, right? His first game, I think he dropped Sigurdsson and started Aaron Lennon, and then they went and lost.
Yeah.
And I feel like that could have been like, oh, this has backfired. But now he's sort of got a second chance to prove that he knows who the correct guys to pick up.
I think so. I would say still, like, I think he deserves a thumbs up for some of the decisions he's made. I don't think that this game... Yeah, but I would say I don't think this game does much if you're the Everton board to say, yeah, let's give him that full-time gig. Because it is still 3-2. You still conceded a penalty. It easily could have been a draw.
Yeah.
You conceded 2 early goals. That's not ideal.
But maybe all they're looking at is, are we in or out of the relegation zone? As I'm taking a lot of risks with my brief glance at the table this afternoon. I'm pretty sure Everton leaped out of the relegation zone. They are well clear thanks to this win.
I believe you are correct.
All right. Can we go the other side of Merseyside?
Sure.
This isn't where the game was. I think the game was at West Ham. But thumbs up to Jurgen Klopp for going off menu.
Okay.
So instead of the same old 4-3-3 that he's constantly done, or sometimes meddling with a back three, Jurgen Klopp finally did something a little different. I've seen it described as a 4-2-2-2. I've seen it described as essentially a
Jesse Marsh applauds.
4-4-1-1. But essentially ended up with a Salah-Firmino forward partnership. I think Salah was just in behind Firmino. And then Mane and Oxlade-Chamberlain behind them on the wings. And then John and Wijnaldum in central midfield. And the result was goals.
Yep.
Goals. 4-1, Liverpool over West Ham.
Yeah, and then just like piling on the misery for Slaven Village as well.
Poor Slaven.
We don't know what's going to happen there. We don't know what's going to happen with Everton either. Either way, David Moyes may be employed.
Yeah.
We shall see.
I kind of like, actually, I don't like when there's managers under pressure around this time of the season and suddenly every podcast is about, should this guy be fired? Is he going to be fired? I'm going to name names. I listened to Sky Sports Sunday Supplement, and the first 25 minutes are about whether someone will be fired or not. And it just gets old after a while.
Yep, it certainly does.
So that's why we're not doing it, for the record.
And I think a big part of it is also that then you get the retread names. And I'm good. I'm good on that. Unless it's Gary Megson. Let's get Gary Megson back in the Premier League. What could go horribly, horribly wrong?
Anything else from the Premier League?
Nothing else from the Premier League. I have some things from the continent. Or should we go to Major League Soccer?
Let's take an ad break.
Sure.
Today's show is sponsored by SeatGeek. SeatGeek makes buying tickets to sports and concerts far less complicated than it has ever been. With SeatGeek's seamless mobile experience, you can buy and sell tickets with just 2 taps of your fingers, provided those taps go onto your phone. And you have the SeatGeek app.
Yes. We just did a podcast appearance on
In Session Film.
Thank you. And I just wanted to get you involved before I go off on a long...
You definitely remember the name, right? You just wanted to throw it to me.
Oh, I absolutely did, I promise. It was more so I'm just about to go off on a ramble.
Okay.
Which is that we did our top 3 like favorite songs in film, which led me to listen to a lot of bands. But when I was looking up what bands I would want to see live for this ad spot, I realized that most of them are no longer together or playing live shows because it's a lot of bands from like the 60s and 70s.
I think the Rolling Stones are still going.
We don't count them. We don't count them at all. And I think they were on your list, but mine of like the Kinks, the Who, Eric Burdon and the Animals. That none of those will work. So instead, in terms of what you could use the SeatGeek app for,
SeatGeek is not a time machine.
I mean, that would be helpful. That would be a good feature to add. I think people would pay like $4.99. I'd say for that one.
Don't you think if someone did invent time travel, if it came out now, it would be an app?
Yes,
because everything's an app.
Or it would be horribly destructive and Terminator 2 style.
I mean, it could be both. It could be a very destructive app.
Things can be two things. But so I would say if you were to use the SeatGeek app, if you can't see bands that no longer are together because their members are dead or hate each other, then what you can use it for is to get tickets to the Eastern Conference Finals. There are already tickets for sale for the first leg in Columbus versus TBD, which has now been determined to be Toronto. There are tickets available already. Yeah.
To be Toronto.
Yeah. And you have the valuator as well. You've got your multiple red dots in this one, but you've got some big green circles, which means they are good value.
All right. So, Phil, is it Mapfree? Is that how you pronounce it? Phil, Mapfree Stadium, help savethecrew.com.
You still want to say Mapfire, don't you? Every single time.
I don't. I want to say Mapfree.
Okay.
Yeah. So, fill that stadium, help savethecrew.com, and you can use SeatGeek to buy tickets to do so. But, of course, scroll around yourself, see if there's anything you want to see via SeatGeek. You can buy or sell tickets.
You can get $20 back, can't you, Dale Grove?
Yeah, you get a $20 rebate on your first SeatGeek purchase. That would make crew tickets very affordable. Here's what you do.
Based on these prices, I'd say somewhat affordable. But
download, playoff time, yeah. Download the SeatGeek app. Enter promo code TSS. To do that, you have to click the settings tab. Then you enter the promo code TSS. That gets you $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase.
There we are. So thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's show. Now back to thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah. Where do you want to go? You talked about the continent or Major League Soccer?
I'm going to take us to, I'm going to talk about the European continent. I'm going to take us to Germany.
Okay.
Where we had lots of Americans featuring.
Oh, yeah.
We had, really quickly, Aaron Johansson, Weston McKennie, Caleb Stanko, Fabian Johnson did
Aaron
not.
Johansson? AJ played?
He did. He came on in the 90th minute in a 2-1 loss to Eintracht Frankfurt. So maybe that means like the coach is looking at him as like, I'll try anything.
At least he's not to blame for the result.
Yeah, that works.
He's just keeping a spot one for Josh Sargent.
So you had a number of players feature. Fabian Johnson did not. John Brooks did. But I'm going to say thumbs down, and this makes me sad, to Bobby Wood.
Why? Did he not start for Hamburg?
He did not play for Hamburg in a 3-1 win. He was on the bench as Jan Fiete Arp. I am probably butchering that one.
The kid from the U17 World Cup?
17-year-old German, subbed on last week and scored, started this week and scored.
This was supposed to be a glorious partnership where Bobby Wood was mentoring this kid who was 7 years his junior. He's not supposed to replace Bobby Wood.
I think, what would he be mentoring him in? Like, how not to score goals in the Bundesliga? So yeah, this kid comes on.
He's like, kid, if you ever end up in Honduras, here's what you do.
So he basically like gets the sub appearance. To be fair, he doesn't sub on in that last game for Bobby Wood. I forget who he subbed on for, but he gets the goal, and so then I think maybe the coach was like, maybe you get the start we see, and he starts at top. top as the lone forward, scores a goal in a 3-1 win. Doesn't look good for Bobby Wood.
I'm glad you mentioned it because is it ARP? I think I was planning to include
Fiti
him.
ARP.
Fiti
It's a
ARP.
hyphenate.
I was planning to include him in the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network and assign him to someone. I'll definitely do that now.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you gave me a nice scouting report on Fiti ARP.
I try.
Even though it was depressing for Bobby Wood.
It was.
Wasn't his coach saying he's not in good form, basically? Things are not good for Bobby Wood.
And I think it was like the more damning part of the quote was like, he could be a good striker, but right now he's nowhere near scoring form or something like that.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, not great.
Can I cheer us up then by saying thumbs up to Christian Pulisic?
Yep.
So his Dortmund team lost 3-1 at home to Bayern. Not a good result. But Pulisic, from what I saw, I kind of watched this semi-casually and then caught some like highlights and clips and stuff. He had a really sort of dangerous game. He was playing a dangerous game down that left wing, and he doesn't get the assist, but he is involved in Dortmund's consolation goal. Bartra scores it because Pulisic gets the ball in the corner on the left wing, nutmegs Arjen Robben, then dribbles back, plays it off to, is it Castro, who feeds Bartra to score. So Pulisic has a highlight reel-worthy moment, lots of good play. But I think there was a lesson in sort of like, when we think about how good Christian Pulisic is, then if you saw the first goal, did you see the first goal, Bayern's first goal in this game?
Yes.
Arjen Robben sort of gave a reminder of what it's like to be a lethal, effective finisher. He hadn't done much all game. He suddenly just kind of received the ball with his left foot, like just banged it, bent it into the top corner. He banged and bent it into the top corner.
Do you think Arjen Robben and Christian Pulisic had a talk after the game about like, hey man, you're really good. Sorry you won't be at the World Cup.
Yeah. What you
right
doing,
back at you.
What are you doing this summer?
Yeah. Let's train together.
Let's hang out.
Practice begging people.
Oh, we have to laugh.
That's a YouTube series I'd watch.
Cry.
Christian Pulisic and Arjen Robben meg people. Just running around.
Maybe they play like that
people.
game where you have to try and meg each other.
Yeah, I like that one. I'm down for that.
What else happened in the Bundesliga? Weston McKennie, as I understand it, so I didn't see this, but he played for Schalke.
Full match.
And Schalke won.
1-0 over Freiburg.
Good stuff.
Caleb Stanko's Freiburg.
Caleb Stanko, from what we can tell, Caleb Stanko wasn't at fault for the goal.
Nope.
Weston McKennie wasn't involved in Schalke's goal.
He was around.
He was around. He was present, right? You could argue maybe he made some space.
Sure.
One little
you could argue
but you'd be
that.
clutching at some straws. You'd be clutching at some straws.
I think you could, but should one? I don't know.
One should not. One should not.
Then before we go to Major League Soccer, unless you have more Bundesliga stuff,
I do not.
The final thing I just want to say thumbs up to Asensio for scoring in Real Madrid's 3-0 win over Las Palmas, gets them back to winning ways. But he scores a goal that it reminds me of like the like mid-90s soccer video games where they had to add in like weird quirks where it's like if you score a bicycle, it does like a loop-de-loop in the air and it can't be saved. This one was like he hit the power shot.
Yeah.
Because it was one of those that he hits it from distance and just smacks it into the back of the net. To the extent that I think it hits the net, but it hits so hard that it still like bounces up and down as though it hit the crossbar.
I remember, I think it was FIFA 95. This is going way, way back. There was a certain angle from the top of the box. If you hit it, it just definitely went in the top corner and no one was saving it.
But it reminds if this were a video game, it would have had like the NBA Jam "He's on Fire" like smoke behind a shot. It was a cracker from Asensio in a 3-0 win, which I'm sure Real Madrid will be pleased with.
Yeah, because they were in a bit of a spiral, right?
Bit.
Lost to Girona and Spurs. So sorry, Las Palmas.
See,
you can't join the club. See,
that's my Spanish right there. You're welcome.
You want to go to MLS?
Sure.
So we got to start.
What could we possibly talk about?
Yeah, I mean the thing everyone wants to talk about is New York Red Bulls went to Toronto, won 1-0, but first half, 11 men on each side. Second half, they come out 10 men on each side. Commentary team, they don't really recognise it until like 1 or 2 minutes into the second half. They're sort of like, oh, there's a man missing on each team. What could possibly have happened? And we're still kind of piecing this story together. Even we're a few hours after the end of that game now.
It was so much so that like you and I thought like, oh, they must have their producer in their ear saying like, hey, these guys are out.
Yeah.
But then they still were sort of like,
counting.
I think he was because he was like, I count 10 people, and then there's like a 5 Mississippi pause, and then like it seems as though there's no question of Josie Altidore, like which was kind of big misses. And I like that they did immediately jump to like that means they must have been sent off at halftime, and not like weird that they're both still in the locker room for the start of this game or second half.
Someone on the ESPN production staff probably should have clued them into it.
I would say so.
Right? But 2, I would say we know how hard it is when unexpected changes happen on it. Like how many kickers games have we been like, I think they're playing a 3-4-3? Usually the opposition, we know what the kickers play. We're looking at the opposition trying to figure out their formation on the fly, like if they come out with a change at halftime. So I kind of have respect for, I've forgotten, was it Alejandro Moreno? Was that the other colour commentator? I have respect for them figuring it out on the fly.
Yes.
And not making fools of themselves doing it.
It was not Moreno, though. If that was Moreno, it was not him who figured it out. It was, John Champion. Yeah,
okay.
who did the counting while doing the commentating.
So we know something happened at halftime that caused Sasha Kljestan and Josie Altidore to be sent off. But we do know that the roots of that are in the 33rd-ish minute of the first half. And it all starts with Tyler Adams on the ball.
Yeah, it's weird that the Altidore Kljestan incidents, plural, start with Sebastian Giovinco and Tyler Adams.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, but I think Tyler Adams, he wins the ball back, or maybe he just receives the ball and gets away from Giovinco. Giovinco hacks him to the ground.
It's a bad tackle.
Tyler Adams does not enjoy it, and I think doesn't really do much, but definitely has a word because Giovinco pops up and they get in each other's face. And then Josie comes in, and basically, I would say this was either him trying to be good to a young American teammate, but I think it was more so him doing a little bit of gamesmanship here because he basically bear hugs Adam. Adams has his arms
all the
way
around. Right?
He has his arms pinned basically, so Adams can't do anything.
And in comparison to Josie, he's a skinny. Adams is a skinny teenager, so Altidore can easily sort of encircle him.
And I think that is sort of gamesmanship because it is, hey, I'm theoretically calming stuff down by not letting you get in a player's face, but also I'm now bear hugging you. You can't move your arms, and I'm screaming at you from 2 inches away.
Yep.
And I think the idea is you're gonna bring about a violent response from the player.
I think Josie was looking to cause Tyler Adams to do something.
I honestly, I wouldn't have thought that, except for what then happens with Kljestan. That it makes me think that he was sort of trying to do what I think a lot of people thought New York were trying to do from the beginning, back to them, which is sort of frustrate, antagonize, try to get some cards, try to kill the game off. I think is what New York wanted to do, and I think Josie Altidore was game.
I will say, so this is going to end obviously with a thumbs down to what Josie Altidore does, but I would say that the beginnings of this are essentially, I think, Josie just trying to look out for his teammate, right? He's just being a Sebastian Giovinco teammate and kind of going to war for him by stepping in when that Adams-Giovinco thing happens, right? So it starts in kind of a good place in terms of a I'm supporting my teammate kind of place.
Yeah, but then it continues from there, and I guess basically I think Sasha Kljestan comes over and sort of has words with him. It seems as though he's trying to be sort of friendly-ish is Kljestan because they're national team teammates. It doesn't seem like he's coming over sometimes.
Very rarely.
Yeah. But
January was the last time.
But I think either way, it escalates from there to Kljestan. But this is what I mean, where and I don't think this is bias. I have started to get a little bit more frustrated with Josie Altidore lately, not surprisingly. But I'm trying not to let that filter in. But it does seem like Kljestan is sort of good-naturedly ribbing him a little bit, where he does he imitates the puffy out chest. Why are you doing that, man? Come on, you don't need to bump into people.
And I think it's the same way Kljestan is essentially protecting his young teammate Tyler Adams. I think he's sort of saying why are you getting in Tyler Adams' face? Why are you doing this to him? Just chill out a bit.
Yeah, and then they it ends with basically he puffs his chest out. Josie walks into him, and then I think Kljestan sort of shoves him off a little bit and all right, man, get out of my face. And then Josie Altidore goes down.
This is where the thumbs down comes for me, is that Josie Altidore essentially fakes being knocked over by Sasha Kljestan.
And I would say I would take it one step further, and I would say it's not just that he goes down, because you could say maybe his if you wanted to give benefit of the doubt, you could say maybe he's off balance. It's that I would argue he tries to sell that he's been headbutted, because he does he throws his head back first and then he goes down, and I think and again that's what makes me then look back at that Tyler Adams incident and think, is he trying to get him to do something stupid so he gets sent off?
I see.
It felt like here, because I think again I could be wrong, but as I recall, he puts his arms around Kljestan again, and I think that's why Kljestan's shoving him away. And so it feels like he's trying to get the reaction so then he can fall over and try to sell a headbutt. And in my game today, a guy who you and I have interacted with,
game?
A guy.
The one I was in, or this is a different one?
Yeah, this is a different one.
Oh, you played earlier.
Yeah, it was a guy who we've interacted with on a number of occasions. He's friendly enough, but he punched one of my teammates in the face because he was frustrated by the way the game was going. And afterwards, he knew he was wrong.
Does his name sound like an instrument?
Yes.
Okay,
it does.
let's leave it at that.
And instead of being look, I'm just really mad, whatever, it was sort of he's been doing it all game, and he kind of tried to justify it and justify his anger, and it's no, dude, you punched a dude in the face, you are not the victim here, and it felt like that with Josie, where I feel like after this kind of fracas, he sort of is trying to play this whatever, gets into Sasha Kljestan's face, and Kljestan simulates a dive, and Josie gets all mad, and it does feel you know what you did there, man. Don't try to then be whatever, you were the aggressor, you shoved me down, you attacked me.
Yeah.
That said, it does sound like then Josie Altidore was the victim in the halftime incident.
Okay, so let's talk about the halftime incident.
Sure.
don't know what happened because we haven't seen footage of what Altidore and Kleshton do in the tunnel that earns them a halftime red card so they can't come out for the second half. We have seen footage taken by, I'm not sure
fans.
who it was.
Yeah.
Is it fans who
so.
are in there? Of essentially New York players and Toronto players and coaching staff, right? Marsh and Vanny are both there. Kind of just a lot of pushing and shoving and a lot of bodies. But I don't see Altidore or Kleshton anywhere.
Kleshton's in the middle. He's not really doing much, but he's definitely involved.
Okay.
And I think to give a little bit of background here, from what I understand, like this is not going to be a detailed explanation. Or,
we're not going to do a breakdown of the tunnel fight, right?
I mean, somewhat we are, but what I mean more so is like I'm not going to
explain.
This
isn't Pizzagate, is it?
I'm not going to explain the intricacies of BMO Stadium. Is all I'm trying to get at. But like basically, if you imagine. The two teams, when they leave the field, they go into the same tunnel, but at a certain point, it forks or like is a T.
Yeah.
One team goes one way, the other team goes the other. They walk past a sort of, I think it's a bar or a restaurant down there where like there's glass paneling there or plastic paneling, so you can like see the players walk by.
I see.
That said, I think you hear the audio, so it's definitely a way to be right up in there. Yeah. So essentially, what the brawl, fracas, shoving, whatever you want to go with, that seems to have been. Michael Bradley said 5 feet from Toronto's locker room, which means that the Red Bulls went into like Toronto's area where they shouldn't have been. Jesse Marsh leading them. He was the one who was like front and center in that line of or that wall of conflict.
So we're speculating there, right?
Yeah.
But can we assume they were sort of protesting what had happened? Or maybe they're protesting the foul on Adams. They're protesting Josie trying to get Sasha sent off.
Yeah.
Right? That's the only thing I can think of.
Well, except that Josie, so Kleshton says Josie shoved him against the wall, hit it like he hit the back of his head against the wall, that his conscience is clear. That's what he said after the game. So Kleshton would have you believe.
Where did he say this?
He said it to a reporter in the post-match comments. So he says his conscience is clear. So he, I guess, would imply then that Altidore was the one who started it. But by all accounts, it was Altidore was pursued by a number of Red Bulls players. I've seen it 2, I've seen it 3, I've seen 5 or 6. And so I'm guessing that maybe they followed after Altidore to have
Josie
some words.
Was tweeting about something.
Yeah. So I think they probably followed Josie into like the TFC side to confront him. And then from there it went south. Then a bunch of other players got involved.
Okay, so here's my question. Is this good for the playoffs, like to have this bit of drama? Because I've enjoyed talking about this because it's very dramatic, but I also think it's not a good look, essentially.
Why not?
Because it just seems like a lot of immaturity from a lot of players who probably should know better.
I think,
but it's also weirdly entertaining, you know?
I mean, it's tough. I would say, I think if this had come about from like a full-blooded challenge and then everybody got mad, it has a different spin because then it's like, look how much the playoffs mean and look how passionate they are, and like being angry about a challenge is going to spill over into a locker room conflict versus like a little bit of a flop and a little bit of back and forth leads to.
And even the Giovinco challenge wasn't enough to cause a big riot, right? I mean, it was not a great foul on Tyler Adams, but it wasn't like he came up with 2 feet in the air and kicked Tyler Adams in the face.
So I think
I'd go after him if he did.
Yeah, I know you would. You wouldn't stand for that. Tyler Adams went after some people himself, though.
I'd say what the weird positive here is Tyler Adams looked zero intimidated by anyone who came after him in that 33rd minute incident. Including
Josie Altidore, who towers is a strong word, but I'm going to say towers over him. Josie Altidore is slightly larger than Tyler Adams.
Is there also there's an undercurrent of this or a big subtext of we didn't make the World Cup and people are mad at Josie Altidore and he got booed recently, right? And there was that Biggest Losers banner for him and Bradley, and I feel like there is an element of sort of Josie being under a lot of pressure from like fans and media, and you know him sort of being sort of semi unpopular right now because he's bearing some of the blame for the October 10th Trinidad game, also known as the recent unpleasantness.
Yes. And it does sound like I saw some TFC fans posting that I feel like their reaction to this is sort of like it's TFC against everyone because everybody is anti-Josie or anti-Bradley at the moment. I don't think
because they're the two most high-profile players involved on that US team that didn't get it done, right? Who aren't Christian Pulisic, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Who scored in that game, so he doesn't get as much blame.
True. Yeah. And I think Bradley and Josie always are kind of the focal points of attack when people are frustrated with the United States. But he definitely doesn't do much to make himself look better in this situation. Just that flop is ridiculous, especially
That's the worst part.
for how big he is. But it then I think is unfair to say like, oh, it must be his fault because he was being a jerk in the game, so he must have instigated this. He must have started it. I have seen a lot of people jumping to that conclusion. Based on like where it happens, if it is right outside of Toronto's locker room, then that does mean Red Bulls players and Jesse Marsch followed them, or at least were all there to further the incident. So who knows? I know Altidore says that Kleshtin came from behind and choked him. Kleshtin says Altidore shoved him. My guess, and I could be totally wrong here, is that maybe Kleshtin was trying to make amends afterwards and sort of was like, hey man, playfully putting his arm around him, and Josie Altidore was in competitor I'm angry mode and didn't take kindly to that. But again, he says he was pursued.
I feel like Josie's in playoff mode as well.
Greg,
which is
Yeah, and he says they pursued him, or that he was they targeted him. That I've even seen it written as he was jumped by New York players. Greg Vanny echoed that. So it could also just be that New York players were really upset, went after him. Felipe seemed none too impressed with Josie Altidore. So either way, it's certainly not just his fault, and I do feel like there is a little bit of that coming out. Is that Josie Altidore did this himself?
Yeah, I think people are ready to be mad at him essentially.
Yeah, well,
so
I think
where they won't get a chance.
That's what I was going to say.
The Eastern Conference Final, or as I call it, the MLS Cup semi-final. When Toronto played Columbus, because he'll be suspended because of this red card. Giovinco also suspended, I believe, for yellow card accumulation. So suddenly Giovinco and Josie off the field for the final.
The stat that has been doing the rounds, though, is that I think earlier in the season, Toronto traveled to Columbus. Josie Altidore and Sebastian Giovinco did not play. Toronto still won 5-0. Make of that what you will.
To St. Ricketts, I want to say, is the guy.
Probably.
Yeah.
Michael Bradley in there somewhere.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, so the other game, we didn't get to see any of the other MLS playoff games. I think I know the Houston score.
2-1.
And we saw the Seattle, I did see Seattle, the Dempsey goals against Vancouver. I'm just going to say classic deuce.
Yep, classic deuce. And I would say kind of classic Houston this season. Yeah. It was kind of smash and grab, got the result they needed.
Did you see it? Did you see much of it?
I mean, it was on while we were recording, so I definitely looked up to see the goals.
I'm not very good at paying attention when we're doing something else.
But I mean, it was not a result I would have expected. Certainly not a result I would have expected when we did our MLS previews. But it was the counterattacking. And it was interesting because before you got here, Alexi Lawless and Rob Stone did a quick sit-down interview with Diego Valeri, and he talked all about how we have to be wary of the pace and the counterattacking ability. Maybe they weren't that wary because it finishes 2-1, Portland out of the playoffs.
We just have to say that we're wary to cover our bases.
Proving that 0-0 in the first leg is not a great score.
Nope. It is not. Did we mention that Red Bulls won that game against Toronto 1-0, but Toronto go through on away goals?
We did not, but now we have.
There we go. All right, so your semi-finals are, in the East, it is Columbus versus Toronto. In the West, it is Houston versus Seattle. 2 legs, both to come in the nearish future. I think there's a break. No, there's a break between now and then for the international break. So we've been told, we have read, I think a Brian Strauss article for Sports Illustrated, that the US roster for the Portugal game, which is November 14th, will be announced on Tuesday, which is November 7th. I believe the deal is that no players still left in the playoffs will be selected, but everybody else is up for grabs. I've also heard
not everybody else.
I've also heard Pulisic won't be on the roster. Is that what you're hinting at? Yeah.
So maybe we are looking at a relatively unproven roster then, because if those guys aren't getting called up, if Pulisic's staying at home, I do wonder if other veteran players maybe will stay with their clubs, which means could be a lot of youngsters in there. The
one silver lining here is Tyler Adams is out of the playoffs and therefore available for selection. And the thing I've been sort of excited about for a good few months now, getting Tyler Adams on the senior national team could happen. Weston McKennie could also happen. Jonathan Gonzalez could also happen unless someone at the Mexican Federation says something very convincing in the next 2 days.
I mean, and we still see those reports that he has turned down the Mexican Federation, so that would be an ideal time to make sure that he wants to play for the USA.
I also saw,
Can we lie to FIFA and say it's a competitive fixture too?
Yes. Portugal's roster is out. There is no Cristiano Ronaldo. It's a semi-experimental Portugal roster. My man, Ruben Neves, is on there. Wolves midfielder is on the Portugal roster.
He's your man. You got to learn how to pronounce it properly.
Ruben Neves?
Yep. There you go. You've done it.
That's not how they pronounce it in Wolverhampton.
No. Get out of here. For real? You're kidding.
So when that roster comes out Tuesday, we will have, I think, a very interesting show. Because it's a really... it's an unexpected, unpredictable kind of roster, right? Unlike recently, where you can kind of guess there'll be 26 names and it'll be this guy and this guy and this guy.
Yeah, I think, and then it'll be nice to see. So we'll do some sort of reaction either when it's announced or maybe the day after, depending on
Oh, I'm planning for Tuesday. I'm planning for Tuesday. Also, we're going to have another show Monday night. I'm going to be talking to a lawyer about the big court case that involved NASL versus US soccer. No spoilers. Go on the internet if you want to find how that court case came out.
I'm very excited for that conversation because I think there's a lot to be talking about. Yeah. Well, I'm good at talking. So I'm excited to hear that. I'm also excited, Daryl, to ask you a quiz question. Uh-oh. You may have seen this. Did you see the news about Celtic this weekend?
Yes, it was the longest winning streak in British football history.
Do you know how long it was? Because I'm going to say thumbs up to them, but it was sort of like, that's ridiculous.
So, okay, to just get it right then, it's like it's not unbeaten, it's actual wins.
Yeah.
30 games.
63 games.
Wow, Celtic!
Yeah, set new British record of unbeaten run. Maybe that does mean draws are included. I'm not sure, but either way,
go.
I just enjoyed.
Yes, unbeaten means like invincibles, like Arsenal.
Yeah, but I enjoyed Brendan Rodgers just sort of like talking about what an honor and a privilege this is and how amazing it is. And there was a part of me that was just like, man, they need some competitors in there because that is not great for the league.
Oh, Darlington Nagby could have been part of that.
He could have been, but no. But no.
All right, should we move on to the TSS Scouting Network?
Let's do.
All right.
And we're going to start off with a bang. Was that Clough, scouted by Carl Getz, 22-year-old or Goetz? What would you go with there?
I'd go Carl Getz.
I'm going Getz. 22-year-old English bench warmer.
Let us know if we got it wrong.
Yeah. Bench warmer at Nottingham Forest. Clough has struggled to earn playing time this season, getting just over 300 minutes spread across 11 games. He was indirectly involved in a court case involving texting and driving. I will leave out the details because it's kind of a bummer. I would just say it's a good reminder. Don't text and drive. Zach Clough did nothing wrong. Adding that as well.
Okay. CJ Lieutenant is scouting Cesar Montes, the 20-year-old Mexican centre-back for Monterrey. So I assigned Cesar Montes after watching my first Monterrey game and being very, very impressed. He's the future of Mexico. CJ says the 20-year-old, dubbed the next Rafa Marquez, played the full 90 in Monterrey's weekend 2-0 win over Club America and then Wednesday's 4-1 battering in Copa MX over Santos.
I had that CJ sent in a scouting addendum, which is what you're about to read.
Okay.
I left off the part that they lost this weekend. He was subbed off as like a tactical substitution, but still involved in this game.
All right, so for those and other efforts, he's been called up to the Mexican national team for the upcoming European friendlies against Belgium and Poland, which will give him a great opportunity to demonstrate that he can deal with international caliber forwards as he matches up with Romelu Lukaku and Robert Lewandowski. Wow, Mexico got some good friendlies.
If they call those two in, yeah, it's going to be a challenging sequence for them. Lucas Muller is scouting Danilo Acosta, 19-year-old American left back for Real Salt Lake. Danny was one of the surprise highlights of the 2017 season for RSL. He played 1,411 minutes in 17 games, 16 of which he started. Over the course of the season, his positioning improved, and he used his speed to contribute? Yeah, to the attack, getting 2 assists on the year.
What, is this a complete season review?
I believe it is.
All right.
An abbreviated one. RSL's goal is to get younger faster and have a pipeline from the academy to the Monarchs, from the Monarchs to the first team.
Monarchs are the USL team, right?
From the academy to the Monarchs to the first team.
There you go.
So it's a pipeline. There you go. And Acosta is a success story for that vision. Also, from what I gather on Instagram, Acosta's girlfriend calls him Big Bean, and Justin Glad seems to think that is super funny, says Lucas.
I'm glad Justin is glad. Jeff Markman is scouting Reece Nelson, the 17-year-old English midfielder for Arsenal. Nelson was given a call up to the England U19, says Jeff, for 3 qualifying matches scheduled for the upcoming international break. He also started and played 90 minutes at right wing back in the Gunners' drab 0-0 draw, with Red Star Belgrade. I'm assuming that's Europa League. A result that nevertheless sees Arsenal through to the knockout rounds of the Europa League.
Well done, Daryl. Jeff and Sam Huffman scouting Mukwele Akele, 20-year-old American midfielder for Villarreal C, theoretically.
Uh-oh.
That's
the bad kind of C. It was the letter C.
Well, keep waiting. Akele has not featured in either of the C teams who play in the 4th Division, most recent games, and last appeared for them in early October. He did, however, say Jeff and Sam, get a mention on a recent TSS episode, so at least there's that.
Is it time for Mukwele Akele to come home?
I mean, no, maybe. Okay. Who knows? 20-year-old, maybe there's still a chance. Give him some time. We'll see.
All right. Well, Jeff and Sam, keep an eye out. We'll see what Mukwele does next.
He is from Minnesota, right? I think.
Yes, I think so. Yeah, him and Jackson Ewell are sort of like the same cohort. So I'd like to see them both at Minnesota United, maybe. Lewis Graf is scouting Joshua Kimmich, the 22-year-old German right back for Bayern Munich. That is where he's been playing. Some bad news, says Lewis. Kimmich missed the game against Dortmund with a stomachache. They did not suffer. Bayern Munich, it seems, have strength in depth.
If it was actually reported as a stomachache, that means he had diarrhea, right? That has to be what that means. Like that's the only way you can put that. Which
That's the polite way of saying
it. Yeah, I had some stomach issues, is usually what that means. Josh Duller.
You're going to feel really stupid when he's got appendicitis or kidney stones or something.
Again, I mean, your kidneys are not your stomach, so I don't know if that one works quite so well. Your appendix is also not your stomach, but I take your point. Josh Duller scouting Blake Bodley, 19-year-old American midfielder at the University of Washington. Blake has had a good first season for Washington. He started 10 of 18, grabbed 3 goals, a team-high 7 assists, and is in the running for Pac-12 Freshman of the Year. The team has one more game in the regular season, currently has a record of 12-5-1, and hopes that a win in their final match will get them into the NCAA tournament.
Blake Bodley, great name.
Yep.
Brian Kelly is scouting Sander Berger, the 19-year-old Norwegian defensive mid for Racing Genk, I believe in Belgium. Brian says that Sander, regrettably, Sander was not called up by Norway for the upcoming friendlies due to the injury he picked up last week against Club Brugge. One source calls it a torn muscle, but doesn't elaborate on the severity of the injury. When I know more, so will you.
Stanton Thomas scouting Benjamin Pavard, 21-year-old French center back for Stuttgart. I'm going to say this report was written by Ron Swanson. After a very strong start to the domestic season in Germany, Pavard has received his first call-up to the French national team. End of report.
That's like Ron Swanson's taxes.
That's what I'm saying.
Michael Curry is scouting Haji Wright, the 19-year-old American winger/forward who is on loan from Schalke at Sandhausen. Michael says, in the last month or so, Wright has been getting minutes here and there, but nothing that indicates consistency. So far, he has 1 goal and 0 assists in 459 minutes of Bundesliga 2 action, or 2 Bundesliga, or 5 Bundesliga, as some people like it to be called. I can't remember. Someone got mad at me for calling it Bundesliga 2.
You're fancy.
Covering my bases.
Final report comes from Ira Jersey scouting Ashley Sanchez, who had been struggling, no longer struggling for UCLA.
All right.
After scoring the only goal against number 18 Cal, midweek, Ashley scored a game winner in the 92nd minute against crosstown rival USC in the final regular season match. The USC-UCLA match set an NCAA women's soccer attendance record for a regular season match with over 11,700 people in attendance.
All right. Well done, Ashley Sanchez.
Yep.
So, thank you to Carl, CJ, Lucas, Jeff and Sam, Lewis, Josh, Brian, Stanton, Michael and Ira for today's scouting reports. If you would like to join the hallowed ranks of the TSS Scouting Network, you go to totalsoccershow.com/join.
There you go.
There were recently a lot of assignments made, so hopefully people check their inbox Saturday afternoon. I did it from a coffee shop. If you have joined the Scouting Network, a lot of people have recently, and you are impatient, then I'm not saying that's a bad thing. If you want your scout, email me and I'll get your scout to you.
I'm impatient. I want my scout.
You haven't signed up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but other people can email me, Darryl@totalsoccer.com. Yeah.
I do enjoy when we get the sneaky ones from people who've like scouting a player, and then I ask you like, wait, have we assigned that person? You're like, nope, they've just decided to send in a report.
Yeah, we check. We have a database. Yep. We can check if you are actually that person's scout. No sneaky reports.
Yeah, and then we file a complaint with the internet police.
Yeah, we do.
Send in a faulty report.
So yeah, when the internet police knock on your door, that's why.
And then there are tribunals at TSS Tower. It's a whole big thing.
it's a lot of admin.
Don't go down that road.
Yeah, don't do it because it's a lot of paperwork for us. All right, Taylor Rockwell, anything to add before we get out of here?
Nothing to add, my friend.
Nothing to add. Okay, I'll be back late Monday night with some legal eagle stuff.
Legal.
Looking at the NASL US Soccer court case. Then Taylor and I should be back on Tuesday to talk US roster.
Yeah, we'll see.
Whoever's in charge of selecting that roster will announce it on Tuesday.
Yep.
And we will be here to analyse it. All right, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon. Slash